Strong winds were buffeting the island of Sodor. The engines were finding work difficult. Trains were often delayed, if not cancelled, due to line obstructions. One evening, the big engines were huddled in the shed, listening to the howling gales. Daisy, the diesel railcar, had taken shelter with them. "The wind ripped a crossing gate right off its post," she explained. "Poor Thomas's front end was awfully damaged. They were still removing bits of fencing when I was ordered to stay here."
"Oh!" sniffed Gordon. "Count on a small engine to be impeded by a few toothpicks."
Before Daisy could reply, Henry backed into the shed, grumbling dreadfully. "The kipper's been cancelled," he fumed. "Bother! I was looking forward to a nice evening run."
"Oh, not you too, Henry," groaned Gordon. "A little wind shouldn't stop engines like us."
"That controller's orders, Gordon," Henry retorted. "He doesn't think the vans can weather the winds."
"Oh, you're just being silly," Gordon yawned. "You watch me tomorrow. I'll be right on schedule, whatever the weather."
Though still strong, the winds had lessened by morning. Gordon had just left on his first express run, but was not enjoying himself. Speed restrictions were in place, and no matter how fast he tried to go, his driver held him back.
"Calm down, Gordon. I've already got the storms to worry about. I don't need you trying to knock me out of the cab." "It's shameful. It's shameful," Gordon grunted, and begrudgingly slowed down.
Leading up to Edward's station, the main line is surrounded by farmers' fields. One farmer, who worked closer to the line, had recently built a small shed for his equipment. He was pleased with his handiwork, but didn't realize how lightweight the structure was. Too easily, the strong winds picked up the shed and blew it across the field. Gordon felt uncomfortable.
"I can't see a thing," he groaned. "That makes two of us," grunted the driver. "If we can just make it—" "Good grief! What's that?"
Gordon cracked open his eyes. A dark shape loomed on the line ahead. The driver slammed the brakes, but the heavy coaches pushed them along the damp rails. Gordon shut his eyes and... Gordon felt a jolt as his leading wheels bounced on the sleepers. Luckily, his driving wheels stayed on the rails, and he finally came to a halt. Remnants of the wooden shed clung to his front end, which was feeling rather sore. When the wind died down, James came to take the express. With Edward banking him up the hill, the only engines available to help Gordon were Bill and Ben.
"You're a sight for sore eyes," teased Ben. "Bent buffers? Worn brakes? That's not the make of a proper express engine." "By the looks of it, he wouldn't even make a proper shed," laughed Bill.
Gordon felt too worn out to retort. He was moved to a siding at Edward's station, mournfully waiting to be taken to the works. He soon found himself being shunted onto Henry's goods train. "Well, well, well," chuckled Henry. "You were on schedule, all right. Be careful in future, will you? I'd much rather see you pulling the express than housing tools." For once, Gordon felt Henry's words were worth heeding.
Ryan lives on the western coast of the island of Sodor. Lots of vacationers come to see the seaside scenery and rocky terrain. Mainly, the vacationers travel on Duck and Ryan. While Ryan does work for Duck, he also works by the fishing village in Harwick with Arthur. One afternoon, Ryan was complaining. "We've got too much work to do," he panted. "I want to do something entertaining." "This is your entertainment, Ryan." Duck was showing the passengers enjoying the scenery. "And fish too," Arthur sniffed. Ryan was not interested. "I want to do something fun and exciting, just to please an audience." Duck wanted to cheer up Ryan. "I'm sure you're already pleasing an audience by taking them to—" "I know," Ryan interrupted. "I'll do a stunt. That'll please them." "You can't," Arthur responded. "It's impossible." "Oh, just you wait and see. I'll show you. And Ryan puffed away, leaving the coaches behind. Duck was concerned. "This is the second time he's left the coaches behind." "I'll take him," Arthur checked in. "What's he got to do doing a stunt? Ryan's not like Evel Knievel where he jumps off land. He's too heavy." "He'll be back soon," Duck said. "It's likely that this will be the most unrealistic thing an engine's ever done." Ryan pulled up and told the engines. "What nonsense!" they would all say. "Fancy an engine pulling that just to please an audience." Later that evening, Duck asked one of them about what Ryan said. "He's going to perform smashing head first at full speed, straight into a cliffside to see if he can break through it." "That'll put him at risk of lethal damage to himself," Duck predicted. "Ryan would like you to watch him tomorrow at noon at the site," said Never. "He's wanting to get pleasure." Duck was worried about what was going to happen to Ryan tomorrow. "This won't be good." When tomorrow came, Duck went to the site where Ryan's stunt will be held. Arthur was there, and so were viewers on the other side of the rails. "Ryan's putting himself at risk of getting scrapped," whimpered Arthur. "This is not the way to achieve pleasure," Duck added. There was a long and loud whistle, and there was Ryan chuffing heavily at maximum speed. "Look out for me! Here comes the Purple Rider!" He came into view and whooshed right past Duck, Arthur, and his audience. "This won't end well," both engines looked at each other. Unfortunately, it did. Ryan's driver and fireman jumped off the cab before it happened. What laid in front of everyone's eyes was a boiler-crushed Ryan engulfed in smoke. "Ta-da!" groaned Ryan from within. After Ryan had been freed from the rock, Sir Tobin had spoke severely to his crew, then to Ryan. "Performing a stunt like this is very dangerous and could put someone in serious harm. Luckily, no one was hurt from this." "Yes, sir," Ryan slurred. He had lost some of his teeth from the impact of the crash. "Because of this, you have caused yourself and anyone confusion and delay," he concluded. "Duck and Arthur, please take Ryan to the works at once," he ordered. Duck and Arthur watched sadly as Ryan was taken away to the works. Ryan was so damaged, this took a long time to get him restored. A quarter of a year later, Duck came to see Ryan. "Hello, Ryan," he greeted him. "And sorry about your stunt." "No, Duck. I'm sorry. Sorry to complain about entertaining. I shouldn't have attempted to do this crash. I now prefer to be hauling goods and passengers than that. I'll admit, though, you certainly got your entertainment from that crash, though. Only 12% of your audience liked that. And it was kind of funny." And Duck's crew chuckled, while Ryan could weakly smile. Daisy, the diesel rail car, runs along Thomas's branch line and up to Harwick past Duck's branch line. She can be quite a snooty, sassy engine if asked too much. Daisy woke up one morning to first see her coach. "How indignant of me to pull such a thing like that!" Daisy spluttered. "My fitter says I'm forbidden to pull anything at all." No one said a word. "And there's another thing," she continued. "It makes me look like I'm a diesel tender engine, especially also looking like that feeble futuristic rubbish." Connor felt insulted. "Excuse me, ma'am," she asked. "I don't get made fun of for my coaches having the same looks as me. I think for what make me unique." "Pah!" Daisy scoffed as she angrily went to collect her coach. The coach had a similar livery like Daisy. She biffed into the coach roughly. "Careful now," the driver demanded. "It's brand new. You don't want to damage it." When the passengers boarded her and the coach, the whistle blew and she departed. It was a slightly heavy journey, which made Daisy feel uncomfortable. "I shan't have to pull it! I shan't have to pull it!" she groaned. "It's awful bad for my swerves." She made it to the big station. The other engines chuckled at her new coach. Daisy felt embarrassed. Rebecca was the only engine at the station who didn't laugh with the others. "Ignore them," Rebecca tried to comfort Daisy. "It takes time to get used to your coach." "Rebecca, this coach is an insult! My fitter won't like this! It's torture!" "You know something?" Rebecca changed her attitude. "I think your coach looks great with you, and your fitter does not." And she chuffed away, leaving Daisy more angrier than ever. Later that day, Daisy had an idea. A devious idea. So instead of collecting her coach, she insisted on laying all the passengers on board. "Where's your coach?" asked the station master. "My coach needs polishing," she excused. "If it does, I'll be late and I won't please anyone. But your coach is in better shape. It doesn't need any polishing yet." "It needs extra polishing while I'm away. So, we're working on it after I leave." "Okay, Snooty," her driver settled her down. "We'll try to fit as many passengers in." Daisy's plan had worked. When there were no more seats left available, she insisted the rest of the passengers squeeze inside. When she left, it was very difficult to get a running start. She slipped on the rails fiercely. "I've got this! I got this!" she strained. Unlike carrying her coach, fitting that many passengers solely inside her was worse. She continued to strain painfully until Daisy's springs had sprung. "Aye!" she shrieked. "That's done it," said her driver unfortunately. "If you hadn't complained about your coach and just had it the way it was, then this wouldn't have happened." Her driver went to find a nearby telephone. He stopped by Mrs. Kindly's to borrow the telephone for emergencies. Percy had to back her up to the sheds. Sir Topham Hatt was not happy. "You should know better to use your coach beyond your capacity, not against it," he scolded. "But sir, everyone thinks that I'm Connor," Daisy complained. "I heard engines say you remarked over her. I demand you to apologize to her after you have your sprains be mended." Daisy felt glum. After hearing what Sir Topham had provoked, she looked over to Connor. "Excuse me, Connor," she asked for her attention. Connor looked back to Daisy. "I'm sorry that I called you feeble, and I wish I just dealt with the coach and not these predicaments." This warmed up Connor. I also dealt with a similar predicament akin to yours. You did? Asked Daisy. It was my first time on the railway in Japan. And Connor told her story. I think your coach looks really useful when you carry more passengers. Daisy smiled. Although she felt unusual with it, she was happy she had a new friend to relate to. Thomas the Tank Engine loves his branch line with a burning passion. An update to his train had altered as Thomas now takes milk from the farms on his first train on Mondays. He was surprised to find a milk tanker fast asleep in the sidings. Is that time already? Yawned the tanker. Oh, hello Thomas. Nice to see you back. Glad to be back, smiled Thomas. Ready for our run? I don't think so. The tanker yawned again. I'm waiting for Daisy. Thomas was confused. But the milk goes on the first train, and I'm the first train. The yard manager heard the commotion and came over. Haven't you seen the schedule? He asked. I just assumed you were back to the usual timetable, blushed Thomas's driver. This isn't right, huffed Thomas. I'm always first to leave. It's Thomas' orders, shrugged the yard manager. Probably wants to ease you back into service. Why don't you rest a little longer? But Thomas didn't do much resting, as he enviously watched Daisy and the tanker leave the station. A few hours later, Thomas was running happily up the line with Annie and Clarabelle. Calm down, Thomas, called Annie. We're being bounced around back here. My poor wheels, wailed Clarabelle. Daisy never jolts like this! Upon hearing that, Thomas slowed down at once. His smile fell to a frown, and he felt too sad to even whistle. Further up the line, a stubborn cow stood on the rails, contently chewing grass. Thomas hissed steam and blew his whistle at it, but it was no good. Come on, move! Move! He fumed. The cow took no notice. Green grass was more captivating than a blue tank engine. Thomas was so busy hissing at the cow, he didn't notice Daisy coming back up the line with the tanker. Fiddle your steam, dearie, she called. I'll fill this. Daisy gave a mighty toot of her horn, and the cow trotted quickly away. Old Bessie always seems to get loose, she chuckled. We must have a chat with the farmer about her. Thomas said nothing. He just puffed away, annoyed. That night, Thomas backed into the sheds and found Daisy waiting for him. Thank goodness you're here, she smiled. Joey's stuck at the quarry. Percy's with his mail routine. I was worried I'd be alone tonight. Oh, I bet you love to be alone anyway, scowled Thomas. Daisy was taken aback. I'm not sure I understand your meaning, dear. It's quite clear how perfectly the branch line has been when I'm not here, Thomas parried. Everyone just loves you, don't they? Would you rather we let it fall into confusion? Daisy asked flatly. I'd rather it still be my branch line, grumbled Thomas. He shuffled into the darkness and promptly went to sleep, leaving a confused Daisy wide awake. The next morning, Daisy went on her way with the milk tanker and the passengers. Thomas had been working early and asked to sort out the trucks. He didn't like this one bit and banged about the yard. The trucks wisely kept quiet. Meanwhile, Terrence the tractor was taking a cart of lumber into town. he was being driven by a young farmhand who wasn't taking much care. Rather than using the level crossing, he drove Terrence right across the rails. Ouch! Terrence cried. Just because I can go anywhere doesn't mean I should. The cart jolted across the rails, some of the lumber rattled loose, fell off the back, and lay across the line. Neither Terrence nor the farmhand noticed, and they continued on their way. Daisy was coming back from the junction, and was still in a foul mood. Who does he think he is? She grumbled to the tanker. Silly little tank engine. He's a funny sort, the tanker replied, but he does love his line. Daisy was about to apply when... Woo! She cried. Broken timber was caught in her axles. None of the passengers were hurt, but the line was well and truly blocked. Thomas was still banging about the yard when the station master came running. Daisy's off the line near Terrence's field, he called. Will you take Annie and Clarabelle to fetch the passengers? Thomas stopped grumbling at once. He coupled to the coaches and raced up the line. We're coming, he puffed with determination. Thomas was relieved to see his passengers were unharmed, but felt mostly sorry for Daisy. She looked miserable. Thank you, Thomas, smiled the passengers when he arrived. We're glad you can come to our rescue. Thomas smiled, but knew the work was far from over. As the passengers climbed aboard the coaches, Duck arrived with the breakdown train. Thomas rushed back to the top station as quickly as he could. Duck took Daisy to the works to be mended. While she was gone, Thomas worked extra hard doing Daisy's work as well as his own. Careful, laughed the old tanker, or you'll churn me to butter. There was no damage done, and Daisy returned to the shed the following evening. Thank you for your help, she said to Thomas. You really do go the extra mile for your passengers. Our passengers, corrected Thomas. I'm sorry I was cross. The milk tanker told me how splendid you've been, in spite of a few hiccups. I'd rather put that behind me, she stuttered. Then we'll say no more about it, or my prior rudeness, and start anew, Thomas smiled. A grand idea, Daisy grinned, and the two friends went happily to sleep. I keep telling you, Thomas, said Gordon one day. You can't judge shortcuts regardless if it takes you to be early or late. Thomas was late yesterday from his branch line duties and wanted to take shortcuts to be early. I, for one thing, went down the wrong line and got myself too big for my buffers. And that line was by the small village and farmland of Calabai. Thankfully, no one else had used it since. I can go on that line, Thomas speculated. If you're too heavy and going fast, you'll end up in trouble. For me, I'm A-okay even when I'm just going a little bit faster, but not too fast. Regardless of what your beliefs are, don't go down that line, Gordon implored. Otherwise, you're taking your life into your own self. Thomas was on his way down to Province Gate, where the little engines visited the bigger engines. He had to drop off passengers who lived on his branch line. On the way, he noticed a small junction from the far left track. I think that's the shortcut that Gordon was talking about, Thomas wondered. When he dropped off the passengers, Scarlowy was there. This made Thomas ask, do you know if there's any shortcuts are safe? I certainly don't know, Thomas, answered Scarlowy. But I do know that repairs on these lines don't last forever. If it's damaged, it gets repaired, and the cycle continues. This didn't really answer Thomas's question. But does your railway have any shortcuts? If it do, does it save time? I don't know, Thomas. However, I do believe an old friend of ours knew all the routes and shortcuts, if any. It did only say about only a minute or two, but I wouldn't trust them. They could be dangerous. I'll take your word, Scarlowy. I have to get going. And Thomas departed from the platform. He exchanged the coaches at the sheds with a few freight cars to be taken to the western side of the island. The freight was heavy and made Thomas slower than usual. This gave him an idea. Perhaps I might take that shortcut I saw earlier today. How bad can it be? And he did so. His fireman switched the points and headed down the shortcut. Thomas knew full well that shortcuts are dangerous, and doesn't matter if it saves time or not. Thomas decided to pick up some speed as he approached a downhill gradient, but wanted to go just a little bit faster. As he was going down the slight downhill, the weight of the freight cars made the rails sag and lean downward towards farmland. "We better slow down," said his driver. He applied the brakes, but the freight cars' weight made it slower to perform. Before Thomas's crew could do anything else to slow down, the mill cars slid off the tracks, bringing Thomas and the rest of the cars along. The crew got off just in time, and Thomas was dragged off the tracks, down the embankment, and into a fallow field. Thomas laid stiff in the cold mush soil. His crew were not amused. "You silly engine!" they reprimanded. "Now look what's happened!" "I only wanted to take a shortcut to see if it's safe and saves time." "Rubbish! You should have listened to Gordon and Scarlowy. Shortcuts aren't necessarily safe, and this line is basically the same length as that portion of the main line." Thomas felt silly. When help arrived, Thomas was towed back to home by road. He was shortly repaired the next day as he came back ready to work. "What did I tell you about using shortcuts, Thomas?" "You're right," Thomas said foolishly. "You can't judge shortcuts regardless if they save time or not. They aren't always safe."
More and more people arrived on Sir Topham Hatt's railway. The eastern terminus at Vickerstone became more busy, where engines from the mainland and beyond would first arrive on Sodor here. Sir Topham Hatt had asked the Scottish twin engines, Donald and Douglas, to pilot over the Vickerstone freight yard for a while. They tackled goods trains and coaches easily, for once the twins had shunted them, the trucks knew better not to try any tricks. Donald handled over the goods trains, while Douglas handled over the coaches.
"We like it fine here."
Said Donald to Douglas.
"That's good."
Smiled Douglas.
"Take my tip, would ya?"
Asked Donald.
"Mainland engines maybe should try some nonsense." "Dinna fash yourself. I'll soon try to settle that."
Every weekday, punctually at tea time, one of the mainland engines, Spencer, steams in with his special red express coach, where the Duke and Duchess travel in the coach, taken by their private engine. When the other coaches are taken away empty, engines have to remember to shunt the special coach to the right spot in the freight yard. It doesn't wait there for long, as other engines, mainland or not, would need it for other purposes. An hour or two before dusk, Spencer would need the special coach for the way back. One afternoon, Douglas was shunting coaches in the yard.
Excuse me, please take away the coach,
said Spencer snootily. Douglas happily did so. But after a few meters away from Spencer, he heard something unusual.
Sluggish and inept.
It came from Spencer, who was criticizing, in which Douglas felt worried. He was so worried that he shunted the coach into the wrong spot of the freight yard. Later, Spencer came asking,
Where's the special coach?
Coach! What coach?
The special rig coach that I used to carry the Duke Duchess. Where is it?
For sakes!
exclaimed Douglas.
I'm on a Mrs. Stole the special coach. I must find it.
When Douglas looked throughout the yard, it wasn't there. Then he turned his attention to ask Donald,
Why didn't you pay attention? Because I'm insulted? Should have ignored criticism.
Then they heard complaining.
I can't wait any longer.
Listen, let's change tenders and cover up the nameplates, said Douglas' driver, so that way Douglas won't be able to face the music. As quickly as they could, Douglas set off to do Donald's goods. Sir Toughen Hat and a bodyguard arrived and stepped out from Gordon, then walked towards them. Hello, Douglas, greeted Sir Toughen Hat. I've heard about what happened today. Do you know what happened to the coach that Spencer was supposed to take? Donald pretended to act innocent.
Put it away, that's not with the others.
And where exactly did you put the coach at?
In the freight yard, sir. But I was so busy, I didn't have time to check where I put it at.
Fair enough. Sir Toughen Hat concluded. We'll go investigate where the missing coach is. Donald, once he comes back from the goods trains, can fetch Spencer a temporary coach for the meantime. Donald gave a sigh of relief, but it didn't last long. Suddenly, the nameplate covering fell off, exposing who the twin really is. Sir Toughen Hat had something dropped and swung round. Donald, he rapped. Why are you masquerading with Douglas's tender?
Forgotten rail on the line, lost in the tracks. Coach got dreams, no looking back. Thomas riding solo, blue paint crack. Gordon's fussing, always talking smack. Still wheels turn, but nowhere to go. Little red coach, feeling so low. Percy searching, Henry moving slow. Whispered rumors, engines in the know. Where the coach at? Lost in the steam. Puzzle piece missing from the team. And ain't what they seem. Railway mystery in a dream. Old conductor's map, find a hidden clue. Hidden in the yard where the tumbleweeds blew. James did a double take, colors all askew. Alvin said, we missing a hue. Signals flash, whistles calling the shots. Coaches talk gossip in the train lots. Diesel mad, making all those plots. Trackside drama, twisted in knots. Where the coach at? Lost in the steam. Puzzle piece missing from the team. And ain't what they seem. Railway mystery in a dream. Where the coach at? Lost in the steam. Puzzle piece missing from the team. Thomas and friends ain't what they seem. railway mystery in a dream. Old conductor's map, find a hidden clue. Hidden in the yard where the tumbleweeds blew. James did a double take, colors all askew. And Tommy said, we ain't missing a hue. Old conductor's map, find a hidden clue. Hidden in the yard where the tumbleweeds blew. D's so mad, making all those plots. Trackside drama, twisted in knots.